The Morning Herald had a go at you this week for appearing with David Adler and the Australian Jewish Association. David Adler's often on this show and on Sky. They had a go at you, which was pretty lowbrow. You were the ambassador in Israel. You were the member for Wentworth for a long time, a large Jewish constituency. What has been the impact of October 7th on the Jewish communities of Australia? And have the government done enough to address that?
Well, the impact has been massive. I don't think the Jewish community in Australia has ever felt as unsafe or threatened as they have in the wake of the 7th of October. And I think, frankly, they've been let down by their political leadership in their government. It's failed to give a clear signal about the unacceptable rise in antisemitism. And as a result, it's given licence to a whole lot of, awful sentiments towards Jewish people that have basically been allowed to run rampant. So I think the Jewish community feels let down, they feel besieged, they feel threatened, and they wonder what's become of the Australia that has been their home, many of them, since Australia's settlement. The Jewish population in Australia goes back to the First Fleet. Many of them who came here in the wake of the Second World War, fleeing the Holocaust and building a life here, many of whom have helped make Australia tremendously, prosperous, successful, innovative, culturally enriched nation, and they're wondering, is there still a home for us here? Are we still welcome here?
Well, I want to get back to this hit job the Sydney Morning Herald launched against you and the Australian Jewish Association. What's your response to that? Because they quoted Labor MPs who were accusing you of encouraging extremism. I'm laughing because it's so utterly absurd on the face of it, but this was in a major Australian newspaper. What's your response to it?
Well, look, the Australian Jewish Association represents part of the Jewish community in Australia. I don't pretend they don't pretend they represent all of it. And as far as I'm aware, they have not been calling for the destruction of a nascent Palestinian state. They have not been saying death to Arabs or gas the Arabs. They have not been agitating protests. They have not been calling for property damage. But we have Labor MPs who meet all the time with the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network. Penny Wong met with Nasser Majni just a few days after the October 7th attacks. Now, our APAN has called for the destruction of the Jewish state, the elimination of the state of Israel. They're behind this letter, open signed letter by public servants. They're behind a number of the protests on university campuses.
But that's not supporting extremism.
For some reason, that's okay.
That's not supporting
extremism.
extremism.
The Jewish organisation is not.
James.
Senator, I want to ask you, though, about Anthony Albanese's performance through all of this since October 7th. It seems like time and time again he's had to be dragged to do the right thing and speak, on the side of Israel and in support of the Jewish community, while at the same time playing footsie and saying something else to other communities. How would you rate the job that the Prime Minister has done? And do you think that he has control of the narrative, or is the narrative on the issue for the government now being controlled by A, the Greens and hard left members of the Labour Party, and B, by some other multicultural communities that are quite anti-Israel?
I don't think he has control of the narrative. I don't think he's been leading on this at all. I think the most generous assessment you could say of him is he's been like a deer in the headlights. He's sort of reacting to whatever's just happened, but he doesn't have a view of what the position is that he should be taking or the government should be taking. And you've got, tremendous ill discipline amongst all his senior front bench, which means there's a whole variety of messages out there and the community doesn't know what it is that they're trying to listen to.
He had a Labor MP in the upper house repeat the phrase "from the river to the sea." Now, what action has he taken there? I know he has said that is a phrase that is unacceptable, that promotes violence, and then he has his own MP utter those words. What's he doing about it? What strong action is he taking?
Nothing. The truth is he hasn't even spoken to her about this. There's been no discipline, no consequences. You've got to remember, in any other area, Labor is a tightly run, highly hierarchical, disciplined, organised machine. You don't get to speak out against Labor policy in your political career survive. There's not a sort of,
broad church.
No, exactly. But the fact that this has been allowed to run, it suggests to me that they're almost trying to send out a whole lot of multiple messages to multiple communities.
Or is he just running scared? Is he too terrified to take strong action against this MP because that is going to antagonise those very communities that he's trying to appease? by
Absolutely.
playing both sides.
Absolutely. Just want to quickly ask you, Dave, about the teals, because Israel has, the Knesset is declaring or wants to declare UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, as a terrorist organisation. Now, you were defeated by a teal in the seat of Wentworth. The Teals signed a letter, I've got the letter, calling for the refunding, more refinancing and refunding of Australian tax dollars to UNRWA. That was a couple of months ago. Penny Wong immediately did that, arguably at the behest of the Teals, but certainly with the support of the Teals. The seat of Wentworth, how do they respond to Allegra Spender, the person who defeated you, running around asking for the support of UNRWA, which the Knesset are now declaring a terrorist organisation?
And which was found to be complicit in the October 7th terrorist attacks.
Yes.
UNRWA employees who, some of them literally crossed the fence into Israel and, committed murders and any other number of atrocities. The Jewish community in Wentworth is appalled by this because they recognise that UNRWA has blood on its hands as a result of the 7th of October, and UNRWA is part of the problem, not part of the solution. So the fact that someone who purports to represent the largest Jewish community in Sydney is saying the government should start funding this again, they just think is preposterous. It's detached from reality and it's incredibly unhelpful. They see it as a hostile act.
Well, I think they've got the next election in which they can perhaps correct that error that they made. Dave Sharma, thanks for coming on Outsiders. Always great to chat to you, and good luck there at Senate estimates next week. Look forward to seeing what you're going to do there. Fantastic.